This is the Back Row Cincinnati Bengals show, all brought to you by fansided.com. Head on over there if you want to read some of my blogs, read about any team, any sport, anything. But I think you want to be reading about the Cincinnati Bengals because I don't know if you've heard or not. The Bengals are heading to SoFi to play the LA Rams in the 56th edition of the Super Bowl. Who would have thought? Who would have thought after a year of only 4 wins, the Bengals find themselves in the Super Bowl? Joining me today, one part of the Tigress Talk podcast. This is my third Tigress Talk podcast person, yet I'm still missing Kay Schwabs, but we have a great guest on. I've been waiting to get her on for so long, and now we finally get a chance. Bengals Whitney comes to the back row. Bengals Whitney, how the heck are you?
I'm doing so good,
So
as
good.
all Bengals fans are right now.
Can you even believe that it's even real at this point? Obviously, the pictures have come out now of the Bengals end zone logo in SoFi. Like, what did that picture just when you saw that? What did that just do to you? Like immediately? Like, do you still think this is real?
I mean, hang it in the Louvre. It's a work of art, all of it. Like, I think Matt Minnick just tweeted a few minutes ago, "We're going to the freaking Super Bowl." Those tweets are still happening for a reason. It
Hmm.
doesn't feel real yet, I don't think. Even
I
seeing the uniform.
Yeah, right. I gotta say I love what Bengals Twitter did, and those who don't know about the joke are all trashing it and stuff. But like the joke is perfect. All Bengals fans knew that, and going black on white for the Super Bowl. I'm not gonna lie, I'm more of a black on black type of guy. Probably my UC blood showing through. So,
Yeah.
but do you think that this was the perfect uniform combo for the Super Bowl?
I mean, if you're the superstitious type, you were hoping we went all white because I
Mm,
saw the article. um, Home teams for the Super Bowl or whatnot,
mm,
the record is pretty lopsided wearing white jerseys. So I think if you were superstitious, you were hoping for the white. I
right.
don't care what they wear. We're there.
Right, yeah, I got you. I have a complaint, and I feel like nobody's really brought this up yet. When the pictures of the end zone came out, with the Bengals logo, I have a problem with that. It's the B in the Bengals, like the B logo, and then it says Bengals. So we are the Bengals for the
Oh,
Super
I
Bowl.
didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's the B logo, and then it just says Bengals. And I'm like, that's not right. Like, I don't think it should be like that. Because
No.
it's Bengals. That's what we are. It's the Cincinnati Bengals are there.
Great. I didn't even pick up on that. There's been such a flood of content, and today was busy, and so I just kind of was scrolling through really fast and was overwhelmed seeing that we were on the field at all.
Right, yeah, that's a good
But
point.
I
That's
have
that's
a
fair.
beef with that too. I'm not cool with that.
Yeah, I still think we got to go back. We got to go back to the original logo, the Bengal tiger, the leaping tiger logo. I am a 2000s Bengals fan, so like that holds a special place in my heart. I think the leaping tiger needs to make a comeback.
I'm gonna say something controversial. I
Oh
never
yeah.
really liked the leaping tiger.
Oh, what?
I don't.
What?
Not that
Why?
one. I think there's way cooler tiger logos. If you're gonna go back to tiger, I want a complete revamp.
So you want
Not
if we're gonna go back to the tiger logo, you want a completely new one.
yeah.
Why is that? Why? Yeah, I
Something
feel
a
like it's
little
perfect.
meaner and a little less cartoony looking or something. And he's
Oh my
leaping
gosh.
awkward. I don't know. So I
He is
love the leaping tiger for vintage gear. I
mm,
love it for that because that's
right,
awesome.
right.
But yeah. And I talked to Elizabeth Blackburn about this when
Mm,
we went to the jersey reveal about the controversial B logo, and she made me feel better about it. She just basically talked about we have a larger midfield logo than most stadiums do now. We're grandfathered in because they shrunk
mhm,
the size that you're
yeah,
allowed to have midfield.
right.
And so whenever we do it, we got to commit fully because we're going to lose some of that size in the logo. And she was talking about how you can recognize it from way far
Sure.
away, which is true.
Mhm. It's true, and there's something to be, to have, like, a letter as your logo too. It's more iconic, I would say.
Yeah.
And like you said, less cartoony. It looks like we've been there for a while, which we have, just not the Super Bowl, obviously, but now here we're
Yeah.
back again. But personally, I'm a Leaping Tiger guy, but I understand what you're saying with the
I
B
got
and the
to. Most
Bengals.
people are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, exactly. So there is something you're in the minority about. Interesting, interesting.
Sorry.
So Did you find where the KC Bengals game? Where were you watching that? How were you watching that? And just give me your full reaction to when that kick went through, and just like that, like this dream has become a reality. We're going to the Super Bowl.
So I live in Florida now, which is why I got on Twitter in the first place. When I
Mm,
moved a couple years ago, I kind of wanted to stay connected to the fan base and take a little slice of home back with me. Best thing
right,
I ever did. Got the
right.
best friends out of it. I'm hanging out with you right
Hey,
now.
yeah,
Yes.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was in Florida
Mm.
and we have some really close friends that live in our neighborhood that are also from Cincinnati.
Oh, perfect.
So we had a little Cincinnati tribe watching from my house. We had the Skyline chili dip rocking.
Wonderful,
This
wonderful.
week, or not this week, but the Super Bowl, we ordered in the big Cincinnati fan pack where you get Montgomery and ribs and Grater's ice
Hell
cream and
yes.
Rose's pizza all shipped in.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it was thrilling. It was thrilling. I was more emotional this game than I was the other 2, for sure.
Did the tears roll down the face? Because I definitely was tearing up a little
Yeah.
bit as watching that kick go through.
I told Strawberry Ice this the other day when I was on his show. I think it was him. I'm like, I must be dead inside because I haven't cried yet. And it's
I
not
get
because 'cause
that.
I'm hard or cool or tough. Like, I think more what happens to me is I go into shock or something
Mm.
because I just get really quiet and I just sit there with my head in my hands for a while, shake
Just
my head a
staring at
lot. Yeah,
Yeah, right. Oh,
yeah,
man, usually well, for this game here, I went into a drunken fiasco over at my place, and it completely exploded. The roof came off the but I think, you talk about how, like, you kind of were, like, stone cold, stone face, and I think a lot of that was kinda felt around the Bengals community because of just how this does not even feel real. Like, it
yeah.
really doesn't. It's
It's not
amazing.
registering.
No, it's not, like, it's just still feels like we're in the Bengals season, like, and we're gonna go play another game, but this is
Yeah.
the game. Would you call this the most important game in franchise history?
So, maybe.
Maybe.
I think it would do the most for us. So in
Mm,
that way, I do think it's the most important. I think the most important, though, was the Raiders game, the first playoff game.
okay.
Only because that monkey has really haunted it, like, it's been on our back for a minute, and
Yes.
it's been it was the dominant storyline for so long, so I think to the fan base and to the city, maybe that was a little bit more important. I
Mhm.
think right now what's so exciting, and I keep preaching this, is I want fans to really take this season for what it is and enjoy it for what it is right now
Yeah.
because we came into the season with no expectations. Next year, we're gonna have expectations. So this is the only season we're gonna have where we can just
Mhm.
purely enjoy being pleasantly surprised week in and week out
Yeah.
and just enjoy the ride a little bit. And
Mhm.
so that's kinda what I'm trying to do going into the Super Bowl, is
Right,
just
just
relish it. Yeah.
yeah, right, just kinda sit there and enjoy it and sit back and, it's gonna be because I got emotional when I went down to Dallas, for the UC, coming out for the, college football playoff. That was a big moment. I can't even imagine what it's gonna be watching the Bengals come out. And honestly, like, usually my family has a Super Bowl party, and usually we have a lot but now we kinda talked about it, it's like, we don't really know what to do because now our team is actually playing. We kinda need to focus, really. Like, if
Yeah.
you're here for the game, you're gonna be shutting up and you're gonna be focused on the game. There's no gonna be no outside interference. So you say that you're from Florida. This is an odd segue, but we're going into it. But you say you're from Florida. Were you able to make your way up to some games this year, or how many games did you go to?
So I'm from Cincinnati, born and raised my whole life. I've lived in Florida for the last couple years, and the only game I made it to the season was the Raiders playoff game. Jerry,
Mm,
who's on our podcast on Tigress Talk,
yep.
she insisted. She lives in Tampa.
Mm,
I went to her house though for the Chargers game. So I got to feel like I was with another Cincinnatian,
there you
true
go.
blue once. And then I was in the city in April for the uniform reveal.
Ooh,
But
okay.
yeah, only one game.
Only one game.
But it was an
Interesting.
epic one.
It was if you had to go to one game, that would probably be the game to go to. So you were able to experience the fan base at full voice this year, which is incredible. As a Cincinnati fan for through and through, and you've been in Cincinnati before and used to live here. Um, have you noticed that this fan base has been the most bought in to a Bengals team ever. I don't think there's ever been a better connection between the fan base and the organization as it has been this year.
Yeah. I would agree with that completely and wholeheartedly, and I think we can attribute at least a little bit of that to that, classic Joe Burrow effect everybody
Hmm.
keeps talking about, where he somehow makes believers out of everyone, and, I think that's part of it. I think, also the way this team has won
Yeah.
has done that a little bit for me personally because, we've talked about this, I think, before, a lot of us have, but Bengals teams of before, even if we were leading at halftime, even if we were leading in the 4th quarter,
Hmm.
we were never relaxed. We were never optimistic. We were just waiting for that other shoe to drop and to see how are we gonna screw it up this time, and
Hmm.
it felt a lot like those teams, and I love those teams. I rooted for those teams just as hard, but it did feel like, you know, we choked a lot,
Oh yeah.
and we
Choked
weren't
plenty.
yeah, we weren't in it 4 quarters usually, and it was a lot of playing not to lose instead of playing to win. This team is built different, and the thrilling, like, comeback wins that we've had, the last game being such a perfect example of it.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know about you, but if I'm watching the Bengals, this particular Bengals team right now, I don't care how far we're down and how much time is left on the clock. There is a part of me that believes that they can do it. And that
Yeah.
here changes your viewing experience as a fan.
Yeah, you definitely bring up a great point of the difference between this Bengals team and Bengals teams prior that were really good. Is you always were feeling like, okay, yeah, we may be up big right now, but when are we going to blow this? When is this all going to come crumbling to the ground? And when is Marvin Lewis going to get so conservative that we don't even touch the other side of the 50 in the second half, which is
Yeah,
horrible. But
right.
it just seems so exciting, and it's so incredible to watch this locker room to come together, and you see it all the time, and Bengals Twitter, and all over the place. Tell me about just the difference in this locker room this year as compared to years prior.
Well, I don't mean to beat like a word into the ground to the point where it doesn't have meaning anymore, but I really do think it centers on belief a lot. I mean, these guys just believe. I saw Lou Anarumo on Pat McAfee today. Did you see any of that?
Yeah, I saw a little bit of that. Pat is still not responded to my emails. I'm still trying to get on the show,
Mhm.
but yeah, I saw a little bit of it, and you're right. Yeah, it's this oozing confidence that
Yeah.
this team has, and especially this defense that has this massive confidence. And I think that's the best ability you can have, especially going into the Super Bowl, is flying high and feeling confident. Because I mean, is there another part of this team or throughout the league, I guess there's only 2 teams left, but throughout the league this playoff season that was more confident than the Cincinnati Bengals defense?
No, the buy-in, you saw it from day one,
Mhm.
literally,
Yeah.
OTAs, perfect attendance, and Lou spoke to a point today that, I at the beginning of the season when we were in preseason on Tigress Talk, me and the girls had some pretty optimistic
Mhm.
season projections,
Right.
and, we didn't do that out of just naive excitement or enthusiasm or trying to will it to happen. I
Mhm.
think what all of us were picking up on early in the season, besides like the starting with the perfect attendance OTAs, was you just saw a tremendous amount of buy-in with this coaching staff, with the players on the team, with each other, unselfishness. And it really began with a point that Lou made today on McAfee, which is, beyond talent, when they were looking at free agency and scouting players and looking at the draft, he said what I thought was so obvious back then, which is they weren't just looking at talent. Did you have to have the talent?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
But they were also looking for players that were leaders, that had, team captain backgrounds or coaches' kids that had great football IQ that come from winning programs. He talked, about Trey Hendrickson and the Saints and,
Yep.
about DJ Reader. And you look at Mike Daniels, even, from Green Bay. They looked for people that had been there, done that, and could bring a little bit of that swagger and also just that experience, I think, to the roster. And it's paid in dividends.
Oh, yeah.
These guys are unshakable. They completely believe.
Mhm.
I don't take the argument anymore that experience matters. I think that's the knock that we've had throughout the whole playoffs. Like, Bengals haven't
Sure.
been here before.
Right.
They're inexperienced, they're
Mhm.
young. Well, don't tell those guys, because
Mhm.
we've got plenty of leadership on that team that has been there, um, you know, to some extent, and has won big games. And
Mhm.
so anyway, I think the roster that those guys built, the front office and Zach and Tobin and all of them, and what they've used as their criteria for selecting guys is probably their secret sauce.
Yeah, you bring up a great point of the front office and how aggressive they've been. They've done the aggressive thing. They're usually doing the safe pick. They're usually trying to save money and be under the cap. And while that that has worked a little bit here, they went really aggressive this offseason, going out and getting the aggressive pick, going out and taking a chance with guys like Trey Hendrickson, who a lot of the national media was calling a bust. They were calling him a 1-year wonder, and the Bengals went out there and signed him to a 4-year, 60 million,
Mhm.
and he's been one of the best defensive end rushers in the National Football League. He's been
Oh, yeah.
absolutely incredible. And I mean,
We
if you want to
wouldn't
talk,
be here right now without him.
yes, yes, absolutely. That type of aggression is what leads to drafting guys like Jamar Chase. When they didn't take the safe pick and go with Panay Sewell, because they went with Panay Sewell, I would say that most of the country would be like, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, that's what they were supposed to do, but they didn't do that. They
That's the
instead
pick
went for the
that you
aggressive
take if
pick.
you wanna avoid criticism in the
Yes,
media.
yes,
It's
yes,
not the pick that you'd make if you wanna win freaking games right now.
yes.
You know?
Mm,
I'm sorry, it's just not. And so
mhm,
I mad respect for their genius. And to the Trey Hendrickson point, it's because they saw the tape, they saw the film, they saw the obvious talent that he had in a piece that we needed, but they also interviewed the man, the player.
mm.
They learned about his mentality. You look at Trey Hendrickson now, I dare you to watch a Trey Hendrickson interview and not completely fall in love with him and understand why he's so important in that locker room. All those
Mhm.
guys are.
Yeah,
So you talk about a secret sauce, that's it right there. The types of men that we put on that roster.
yeah. So you and I, so we talking about roster additions. You and I were having a little back and forth on Twitter last night, and we were talking about. So Tyler Eifert, for those who haven't been on Bengals Twitter, Tyler Eifert has changed all of his social media to him in Bengals uniform. He's been tweeting quite a bit at the Bengals, been tweeting quite a bit with the fans about a possible return. If number one, I gotta ask, do you think that this is an actual real possibility that he comes
No,
back to the Bengals? No,
I don't.
no. Oh, you're crushing my dreams here.
I'm
No.
sorry.
Uh,
I
so
don't.
does that change your answer if CJ Uzama is not cleared to play?
Well,
Not that you want it,
no, not at
but
all.
is it possible?
I say I have no idea, but my speculation would be if he can't play, sure, it might
Yeah.
up his chances just a little bit. And let me be clear, I am a huge Tyler Eifert fan. Tight end position is my favorite position in the league, hands down. Always has been. I've always said if I'd been born a boy, a tall boy, I would want to be tight end. That's my favorite position. But and Tyler, God, he was my favorite player for a really long time, and I love him. So for nostalgia reasons and because I just adore the guy, I would love for it to happen. But also, he's not taking any reps with these guys. He's
Yeah,
not, and
yeah.
honestly, it's probably not gonna happen,
You're
but
crushing my dreams here,
I
but I think you're right. No, I think you're right. I think you're right, but you're
just be
crushing
happy
me.
that he played with us on Twitter like that
I
yesterday.
know, I
That was
know.
so fun.
It was fun. He's definitely pulling for the Bengals without question.
Yeah,
It is awesome to see former players like him, like Willie Anderson, like Pac-Man Jones, and guys that are really coming out and supporting the Bengals. And even Carson Palmer is saying that the city of Cincinnati is the city most deserving of a Super Bowl. And
yeah,
and I'm as much as Carson Palmer has excuse my language, shit on us for quite some time. It's finally nice to see the national media narrative turn around on the Bengals.
yeah. I don't think he can help but be a Burrow fan too. I mean, his brother worked
Right.
with him so closely. I'm sure they've talked shop a million times
Mhm.
about Joe, so there's probably a little bit of that too, but yeah, I don't know. Um, Tyler Eifert, I wish.
Tyler Eifert.
But I did see, to
He
your
is
point.
dreamy. His flow was dreamy when he was with the Bengals.
My God,
It
I
was
remember
incredible.
the year that his numbers were better than Gronkowski's.
Mhm. Oh,
Like,
yeah.
oh God. But I saw, just before I logged on with you, even a quote from Andrew Whitworth, that as excited as he was about their game, that he couldn't peel himself away from watching the TV for our game
Yeah,
and kind of
right.
cheering us on. And so
Mhm.
you got guys like him. Dunlap even tweeted a congrats to us. And
Yes, he did, yeah. And Andy Dalton did, and AJ Green did, and it's really,
yeah,
really cool to see that come back. And, yeah, but you're seeing this Bengals team now, we're kinda talking about it a little bit through the year of, okay, we were kinda built around winning the AFC North. Well, we did that, and we swept the Ravens, swept the Steelers, still somehow have not beaten the Browns in 2 years, I believe, which is agonizing. That's very, very
we'll
agonizing.
get them.
We'll get them. Well, yeah, we'll get them. I think we're getting them right now because they're going to be watching the Super Bowl while they have the at home with Baker Mayfield commercials playing, which I feel like as a Browns fan would boil my blood if I saw my
It's
quarterback
perfect.
playing awful and doing all of these progressive and Hulu commercials. It's great, isn't it? It's so fun.
It's beautiful, especially that it says it's at home with Baker
At home
Mayfield,
with
which
Baker Mayfield. Yeah, you are at home, buddy. You're going to be at home for a long, long
was his
time.
agent when they were figuring that slogan out.
Jesus.
Jeez.
Terrible, terrible. And then so I mean, so I kind of talk about it like again, we're kind of set up to win the AFC North. And you look around the AFC North, you look at Baltimore, it's like, okay, they'll be back. They had a lot of injuries this year, but they'll be back.
Oh, yeah.
Steelers and Browns are really kind of in this lull and they're in a really bad spot. It's almost and you look at it, it's like, yeah, Baltimore will be back, but I still think the Bengals are a better squad and they're better equipped to win. I think this is gonna be the Bengals division for probably the next 5 to 10 years. What do you think about that?
I mean, we're set up for it.
Mm.
You look at, okay, so I give the Ravens a pass this year. I do, to an extent, because
They get no pass from me. I'm so tired.
well,
I'm so tired of Ravens fans. No,
well, I know I am
they're the
too.
worst. I used to, like, be like, "Okay, if anybody's gonna
They're not the
win,
worst fans.
then" Yeah, yeah, they're not the worst. They were bad this year, though. They were
Yeah.
so salty and grouchy about losing all those games. That's a shame.
Well,
That's
I
unfortunate.
know. I would be too, though. I'm just saying they did have a very real issue with the injuries. I haven't seen anything quite like it, really, for one team. So they'll be on the up and up. But the good point to take away from that is freaking Martindale. See ya. Bye, Felicia.
Gone
That's
for
all she wrote. Like,
You're done. You're
I
done.
want us to take a little partial credit for that, or at least Joe
Mhm.
Burrow.
Y
So I wouldn't say they're sitting as pretty as maybe some think, because, you know, there's that. They lost Wink
Mhm.
Martindale, and
Yeah.
so they have a little bit of their own stuff going on. Steelers, I am gonna be stalking this offseason to figure
Yeah.
out who they bring in for a quarterback. Who are we gonna have to deal with
Is
for the
there
next couple
any
years?
is there any chance at all in your mind that Aaron Rodgers goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers?
There's a chance.
You think so?
Only because of his relationship with, um, Tomlin. I know they're kind of bros,
Yeah,
or at least there's some friendship or
some
mutual
stuff.
respect there. I think Aaron goes to a place where he feels like he can win right now, though, and they got a lot of work to do on that Steelers roster, and they don't have a lot of money to do it with.
Mhm, mhm.
So I don't think it's highly likely, but yeah, I think it's a possibility. And then, yeah, you look at the Browns. I wouldn't want that problem. You
Mhm.
know, I
Yeah,
I actually respect the hell out of Stefanski, so they've got
mhm.
that going for them. But
Yeah.
what are they gonna do with Baker? Like, are they like,
Yeah, what are they gonna do with Baker? That I mean, what are they gonna do? You can't. You're not gonna win with him. You're just not. You're not. He can't play ball down the stretch. You're in a division where you have the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals now. I don't know what they're gonna do for quite some time. They're gonna have a hard time just sneaking into a wild card spot. And then you look around the AFC, and this is one of the reasons why I don't think Aaron Rodgers is gonna go to any team really in the AFC. You look at the talent in the AFC. He's not gonna be the best quarterback there. I mean, you got Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, and
yeah,
obviously Joe freaking Burrow, who took a team that hasn't been in the playoffs in 5, 6, 7 years, and in 2015, quick UC math here, 7 years. There you go, and haven't been to the and there goes my lights. And it hasn't been to the playoffs in so long, and now they're in the Super Bowl. So I don't know. I don't know. I
Yeah.
hope it doesn't happen. I
I
really
did
pray it doesn't.
see I don't know if there's any legitimacy to it, but I did see a tweet the other day, somebody saying that the Packers are not open to an AFC team, like dealing him off to an AFC team, or I'm
Mhm.
sorry, no, maybe they said
NFC
NFC
too.
team. So, yeah, it is I still think it's a possibility it comes to AFC. Your point is really good. I think his ego is going to force him into a situation where he just goes where he feels like he's gonna be listened to the most, and he's got the best roster around him
Sure.
and the best chance to win right now. I did see a little, like, stuff floating around about the Titans today because of some, I guess,
Yeah.
house in Tennessee or whatever.
Yeah, I
We'll
saw
see.
that.
I doubt
Mm,
it, but we'll see. It's
right.
possible.
Yeah. I mean, I would also love a house in Tennessee too. I mean, that's it's not. It's not just It's not just football, down
Right.
there. This guy, he got some great bars. Got some good times down there. But yeah, let's bring it all the way back to the Bengals here. I want to ask you a question. I was asked this on a podcast last night, and I kind of was very curious of what you thought. You could define this Bengals team in one word that you had to pick. What would your word be?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, screw you for not prepping me for that
Yeah.
question.
I gave you
Um,
absolutely nothing here, Whitney. I wanted you just completely, nothing, knowing nothing at all.
well, okay, so I'll tell you the first word that came to mind.
Yeah, there you go.
It's
That's what I want.
probably not the best word, but I would say unselfish.
Unselfish is a great one. That's a great word. So why do you pick unselfish? Why was that the first thing that popped in your mind?
It's just the first characteristic that I'm super impressed by that I think of when I think of this group of guys, coaches included. And I do think it is part of the magic in terms of what we see translate on the field. There's no divas.
Mm,
There's no egos. You look at some of these other teams that have really tried to put together monster rosters to win right now, and they'll grab the OBJs and they'll grab the Antonio Browns and they'll grab this guy and that guy, and then it implodes eventually, usually. I'm not saying
usually,
that's happened to the Rams yet, but I'm just saying,
we're hoping
like,
it does.
this team was formed in a way that feels so organic and well thought out
Yeah.
and very authentic, and the guys are willing to kind of jump in front of buses for each other.
Mm.
And I think it's something you can't measure, but it matters.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
absolutely. I think that's a word that a lot of Bengals fans would use when they were describing this team as unselfish. I mean, you look at just the right receiving core, and you look how great they are, and I personally, I think it's the best in the NFL. And you look at our second receiver is T Higgins, which I kind of feel bad calling him wide receiver two, because on pretty much every
So it's
other
1A and
NFL
1B.
team, it's
Yeah.
1A and 1B. That's exactly right. It's
Mhm.
1A and 1B. And then you look at guys that have been here for a long time, like Tyler Boyd, who his targets have gone significantly down, but his production is way up. He's still efficient. He's still a guy that will go and take care of his business, and he's all for the team type of guy, and they're all for
Mhm.
winning here. And that's the type of culture you need, and this type of culture this coaching staff has created. I mean, how great of a performance has this coaching staff had this year? Do you think Zach Taylor deserves Coach of the Year?
Hell yeah, he deserves coach of the year. And you can't give me an argument that I've heard yet that changes my mind on it. And it's
Yep.
not just bias. I know it sounds like bias, but it's not. I feel like what he's been able to do in 3 years is insane, and I've
Mhm.
not seen anything quite like it in a very long time, and it comes from an organization that has long been trashed for being dysfunctional from the top down, that it's
Mhm.
the front office that was getting in the way of our success. He's not just turned around a winning record. It's not just the W's and the L's that
Mm.
changed this year. An entire culture has changed. A mind shift has happened in the fan base.
Yep.
Um, I feel like what he's done is so much bigger than just the wins and losses. But again, going to the Super Bowl is a pretty good argument
Yeah,
in
that's pretty
itself.
cool. Yeah.
And I think one of my favorite storylines going into this Super Bowl is that it's him versus McVay.
Mhm. Yeah, coming from that McVay tree, and something that Zach Taylor was given the opportunity to was basically lose his first 2 seasons, which again, usually in the NFL that doesn't have 625-1 record does not keep your job. You're out. But the Brown family obviously saw the vision. They saw what Zach Taylor was trying to build, and they let him continue to grow this team. And I
Yeah,
think
and they
you're
don't get
gonna
enough credit for it.
they don't get enough credit for sticking with their guy, and I wanted to ask you is, do you think we're gonna start seeing more NFL teams stick with their first year coaches even though that they may struggle their first 2 years because maybe they just don't have their guys in?
No, I
No?
don't. I mean, I would
Mhm.
like to think that would be the case, and maybe so. I just I doubt it. I feel like
Yeah.
I just feel like this is different. I really
Mhm.
do. I feel like what they've done is different. I think that when Zach came in, they were really taking a chance on him. He wasn't even an offensive coordinator before this in the NFL.
Right.
He was a quarterback coach.
Quarterback coach, and he was terrible when he was at UC. That was the Tommy Tuberville era, if you remember that. It was awful. We
Yeah.
we we had like 2,000 people in the stands. It was awful, and yeah, for him to come straight there, it's like, oh my
Yeah,
god.
so I think whatever he said when he came to that interview, whatever vision he sold, I think he was honest. I think he gave them a heads up. This is gonna take a second, but I'm trying to build something that will last
Yeah.
and become a, because they could have easily, like, if the Browns were just in it for the money and
Mhm.
just in it for filling the stands, first of all, they knew that Joe Burrow was coming and that would sell a few tickets at
Yep.
least, right?
Yep.
And they could have just interjected and wanted to get some big names off of free agency, sell a few more tickets. Hey, we'll probably win a few more games. I think whatever it is that Zach sold to them during his interview process, they bought into fully and they decided that they were going to have his back and let him live that out. And to be quite honest, you look at the wins and losses, sure, it looks atrocious. But how many games, Josh, were we in it within a touchdown? So
Yeah.
it's not like we didn't see progress. We
Mhm.
didn't see it on the wins and loss column, but we saw it on the field. And
Yeah.
we had some major injuries. Think about what DJ Reader has done for this team this year. Another
Yes.
guy that if we didn't have him, I don't think we're in the Super Bowl right now. And
Agreed.
he was out last year.
Mhm.
But they
Mhm.
knew that they picked him up 2 years ago with their first bout of aggressive free agencies.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know.
Yep.
I don't think more teams will adapt it, but they should.
Yeah, I see what you mean by that. I think they should. I'm in agreement with you. Like, I think they more teams should adapt that model because obviously it's shown to work. And now, I mean, you take a look. I mean, a lot of people want to call us dysfunctional, and that's fine because we both know it's not true. We're really not dysfunctional. We've had winning teams. We've had success. We just haven't
That
been
would
able
be
to
the
get that
Browns.
monkey off the back. That would be the Browns. That's correct. Flipping over. Everyone wants to talk about how the Bengals were going to ruin Joe Burrow, but I mean, look at Miami and look at what they've done with Tua and that whole mess with Brian Flores getting fired, which nobody really saw coming, and that's a whole hot
Yeah,
button issue.
what does the Browns and the Dolphins have in common right
Yeah,
now?
yeah, right. They're in
Coaching
shambles.
conspiracies. Yeah.
Yeah. It is pretty funny that in the Browns all-in year, the Bengals are the ones that are going to the Super Bowl, and I lived with all Browns fans, like, for throughout my whole college life, and they were so freaking annoying. It was awful getting barked at, like, just walking up the stairs, but I had my buddy text me, he said, "This is literally the Browns' worst nightmare." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, the Bengals are in the Super Bowl and OBJ is in the Super Bowl, so I don't know how much worse it can get." I'm like,
Oh,
"Yeah.
yeah.
Yep,
It is a
it's"
hard day. It's a
Mhm,
hard game for a Browns fan to watch, that's
mhm.
true.
Terrible.
Yeah, and, honestly, like, the Browns are a really good example of what we were talking about just a minute ago, that you can't just buy a few superstars off the street and expect there to be a team chemistry or something that's gonna work. You have to have all the right pieces, and that's why I just am so freaking impressed, by our coaching staff and by Tobin for prioritizing the intangibles as much as the tangibles. Like,
Mhm,
we're gonna find talented guys, but we're gonna find talented guys that have the right mindset and approach to the game. And that's why you have an unselfish team. That's why you have guys that, would fight tooth and nail for each other. And that's why you got guys that are really smart
mhm,
and have great leadership skills that don't get rattled. Because that's another thing about this team.
mhm.
The bigger the moment, the better they seem to do.
Yeah.
The mental toughness is insane. So
Mhm.
you can't measure it, but
Can't
we all
measure it.
know it's off the charts.
Yeah,
You can't.
right. You bring up that point of when the lights are the brightest, this is when this team shines the brightest, and then this is where they show up, and they got guys with a mentality. So obviously, after this in 2 weeks, the Bengals season is sadly over, win or loss, which just sucks. So I kind of want to look towards a little bit of next year in free agency and the draft. So
Mm.
I've gone back and forth with who we should take in the draft with our 32nd draft pick. And I think I would love to go defense and I would love to get a corner, especially if Sauce Gardner is there. Obviously, as a UC fan, I want to keep him in the city. I don't think he'll be there, but I do think there's going to be a plethora of cornerbacks and really, really good defensive backs coming out of next year's class. But obviously, the safe pick and the for sure pick is going to be an offensive lineman. Who do you think we
Well,
should draft? Or what do you think? What do you think in the draft?
I my general again, I here's my thing. I'm gonna in Duke Tobin I trust at this point. Like
Yep,
so
right,
let
yep.
him and that coaching staff, they'll talk it over, whatever. So, but just in general, like from like a pulled back lens, what I would kind of like to see is us drafting for depth when it comes to the defense.
Yep.
For depth, and if someone shows up and competes and wins a starting position, great. But you know what I mean. In general,
Mhm.
draft for defensive depth and to upgrade that a little bit, and then I want them to go ball out in free agency again this year for O line.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
kind of the approach I'd like to see.
Yeah, right. Because even though we're in the Super Bowl and we're at the top of the mountain right now, and we're not the summit yet, but you still feel like that this is not the middle or the end of this. This is only the beginning of the great
Yeah.
times in Cincinnati. So you have to follow that model that you've been following the past 2 years in free agency and being aggressive. And I do genuinely believe that they will go out and be aggressive. I mean, you're the you have the most cap space out of anybody in the postseason. I believe it's like
Yes.
fourth most overall. We're 50 million under the cap. I mean, look around. You want to talk about an organization that does not get enough heat and they deserve it is the Green Bay Packers. They're like 50 million over the cap. They have about 10 to 11 free agents that they have to re-sign or they have to make a decision on. And they have the Aaron Rodgers situation. So
Yeah.
you want to again look around the league at other dysfunction. There's plenty of it to go around, and it is not coming through
Absolutely.
Cincinnati.
I completely agree, and I think it's just echoes of old narratives where if you're not a part of the team, like, if you're not a fan that it follows them closely, and really can take a deeper dive, it's easy to take those stabs at them that they're cheap. Gab Goody today was railing on
Of
the
course.
mic
Of
cart and the
course.
outdoor or the indoor practice facility and all this kind of stuff. It's just easy jabs to take if you don't know any better and if you
Right.
don't do your homework. But the fact of the matter is it's not dysfunctional. This is a team that's wanted to win for a long time. I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm not saying I've loved every decision that the Brown family has made over the years. Of course not. But who's
John
perfect?
Ross. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great example.
Yeah, I'm not even
What a,
gonna go there.
what a horrible draft class that was. Though we did get CJ Uzama out of that, but it's
Yeah,
horrible.
yeah. You can't win them all.
No,
But,
you can't.
yeah, so yeah, between our cap space and the fact that our core is established,
Mm.
we don't have to change that. This team, as it stands right now, is in the Super Bowl and has a
Super Bowl.
good chance to win.
Yeah.
Super
Yeah.
Bowl.
I'm expecting to win. Yes.
Yeah. And so we're sitting in that like enviable spot that every team in the NFL wants to get to and rarely, rarely do, where the stars align. And not only do you have an insanely good team right now, but you have all this cap space. So
Mhm.
really what you're doing is just upgrading in positions where you can.
Yep.
How can we get just a little bit better? Like what spots can we improve on? And we have those spots for sure. But you can't argue that this team made it to the Super Bowl, this
Mhm.
roster right now.
Right. Yes.
You
This
know,
one.
and all this money. So yeah, I hope that they go out and they upgrade a little bit for the offensive line. I hope they do that in free agency, get some proven talent and some leadership. Let the guys that's currently starting some of them, maybe fall back and be depth pieces and be backups because they're great too. They have
Yep.
promise. There's a lot of them that have promise. Um, and then go draft crazy for defense
Mhm.
because we sunk so much money into defense on free agency the last 2 seasons in a row. I think it's
Yep.
offense's turn to grab
It's
some
offense
vets.
turn. To grab a couple of vets, we could use them on the offensive line. I saw Creed Humphrey wide open. I mean, that's a great guy to add. And as much as I love Trey Hopkins, he's never really gotten back to his dominant form after that
He's had
ACL
a rough
tear.
year,
Yeah,
man.
he's had a rough year. Right tackle,
I
we can
love
use some
him.
serious help. I love Trey Hopkins too. I do. But I mean, if we're going to continue to now we're not trying to just win the AFC North. We're trying to win the whole AFC. We got to get a better. That was a weird breath right there. We got to get a better offense. We got to get a better offensive line,
Yeah.
and I think we will. I trust this front office now, which is weird to say that I trust the front office of the Cincinnati Bengals. That's very very strange for me to say, but I
You might
do. I
wanna
I do.
practice saying that in front of the mirror for a while so that
Yeah,
you get good
right.
at it. Yeah, and, I think that the line gets a lot of talk, the offensive line and the right
Mhm.
side of it in particular, but I would argue that the center is probably where we need to start. I That's where I most kinda want us to go for a bigger name or, like, a really established person, because
Yeah.
that person has to share a brain with Joe. You can't get the center wrong. There has to be insanely good chemistry, really, really
Insane.
smart,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
I love Trey. I do think, like,
I
maybe
think it's
keep
one
him as
thing. Yeah.
backup, but let's get, like, a monster for the center and then upgrade where we can for the right side, but
I think you nailed it. It's like physically, he's not all the way there. Mentally, and his connection with Joe is second to none. I will say that, and he's able
pretty
to
good.
control that offensive line. And honestly, again, a lot of hate. The Bengals offensive line has gotten a lot of hate, especially when you give up 9 sacks to Tennessee. I get it, but they played fairly well against the
He's
Chiefs.
improved.
Again, they did. They improved from the last week to this week, and we're gonna need them. We're gonna need some dudes to step up in the Super Bowl here. So you mentioned it a little bit earlier in the show, and I want to bring it up again because I don't feel like people really grasp how much of a family atmosphere it is on Bengals Twitter, and how we've been able to grow friendships and create friendships. Like you said, like you moved to Florida and you said, I might as well jump on Bengals Twitter just to see. And you've garnered so many friends, and I've garnered so many friends that I can name off the top of my head. And we would go to Bengals gym tailgate before, or any other tailgate, and I'm in all my stripe pipe stuff, and I'm looking great. I'm not gonna lie, I look great in that uniform, phenomenal. And the stripe pipe will be back on Monday, the last time for the season. So I can't wait to see all of you there. Please come up and give me hugs and pictures because I'm gonna be very very sad when it ends. But anyway, but your experience with Bengals Twitter is probably pretty similar to mine. And now you're on this great new show, Tigress Talk, which has exploded, which is awesome to see. It's brand new. So what has been your experience on Bengals Twitter? And as someone who's listening to this podcast that's not on it, what are they missing?
Um, man, so I could have never predicted that just hopping on Twitter would have led to all this, but really, we talked about it a few episodes ago on Tiger's Talk and coined the term fan base, FAM, like family, to apply to this particular Bengals fan base for a reason. The welcoming with open arms
Yep.
is unreal.
Mhm.
And I find it a really positive place. Before I was getting all of my news about Bengals really, like, more real-time stuff through Facebook.
Oh, I'm
Worst
so sorry.
most toxic
I'm
place ever,
so sorry. That's
right?
that's awful. I hate
Right?
that for you. I
And
really
so
do.
yeah, so coming over to Twitter, it's like, geez, the night and day, and, I think we owe it to people like Bengals captain and Jess Hube and those guys, and Jim for like spearheading a really positive movement on Bengals Twitter, focusing on the positive. And that's not just this year. They've been doing it for a while, you
Mhm.
know. So yeah, I would encourage anybody if you're trying to you're gonna get the updates fastest, the news fastest about the Bengals. You're gonna see stuff that you don't see other places.
Yep.
And I think you'll feel very welcomed.
Mhm.
Um,
It's
and then
super
of course,
fun.
Yeah, get out to the tailgates and get out to
Mhm.
the pep rallies and the, Holy Grail and places like that when you can. Because seeing people when I went to the Holy Grail for the Raiders game, that was the first time I met a lot of you guys, and
Yeah.
I felt like I've known you forever.
Mhm. Right, yeah. It's so maybe strange is not the right word because it's not. It's this family style
Special.
of it. Really is special, and there's plenty of our big name super fans now. Obviously, you mentioned Captain Obvious and Jess, and you mentioned Bengals Jim, and the Who Baby, and there's so many. But if you go up to them and you just talk. Like they will give you the biggest hug. They think they are the most down. They are the most down to earth people that I know, and I still remember after the Raiders game, and Captain is like, in all of his stuff and everything, and I give him a quick tap on the back. He gives me the biggest hug ever, and he's crying into my shoulder. I'm like, I only known you really for like this season, but this is
Yeah.
awesome. I love this, and I loved it. And one of my Twitter followers, who is now one of my really good friends, Christine, which loves the Tigress Talk. She's always on
Aw,
me engaged.
Christine.
She's the best. Oh yeah, I love Christine. So yeah,
She's awesome.
oh yeah, she's great. And
Mhm.
so it just again like seeing her, and we were able to hang out like during the entire game, and it's super fun. It's a wonderful atmosphere. So
Yeah.
incredible. And again, you got to talk about Tigress Talk and just the rise of Tigress Talk and how amazing it is. And I brought this up with Jess and Jerry, and it's just one of the things that I've noticed this year is you're seeing a lot of fans that you wouldn't normally see as a stereotypical NFL fan. You're seeing a lot of families come. You're seeing a lot of women get involved with the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, obviously, Elizabeth Blackburn, Katie Blackburn are running the ship, and it's amazing to see it. And as a teacher, I'm able to see that in my classrooms. Like we had a local culture lesson, so instead I just played Bengals highlights, which that's local culture. It counts. It
Yeah.
counts. So,
Yeah.
but I'm having like all these like middle school like girls, seventh and eighth grade, coming up to me and talking to me about like, oh yeah, no, we need to do this. Like they're gonna double up Jamar, so we need to throw it off to T Higgins, and I'm like, wait, whoa, hold on. Like you're going through it's amazing to see. So have you noticed a big change and a big difference like that?
Um, it's just so Tiger Stock was Jess's brainchild. She's the
Mhm.
mad genius behind it. It's her baby, and I couldn't be more thankful to her for just taking a shot. None of us knew what we were doing. Still don't for the most part. Like, but we just get on there and I like to think that we're a place that if you no matter what your level of knowledge of the game is, how much you know the X's and O's, that you feel like there's a welcome spot for you to come and hang out and talk about this team that you love so much.
Mhm.
And that's what we do, and we have a really damn good time doing it. And as far as female fans are concerned, we've always been here.
Right.
We've always been prevalent. It's just I think now you see an environment where we're encouraged to use our voices too. So it's a really fun time to be, I think, a female Bengals fan. I was very lucky growing up that I had uncles that kind of are the ones that brainwashed me into being a Bengals
Yes.
fan from when I was little, but they also
Oh, a
didn't.
Bears fan. Ew.
Oh no, Bengals, Bengals,
Oh,
Bengals,
Bengals.
always
Sorry,
Bengals.
my
Do
hearing's not
not,
great. Oh, my
do
bad.
not cut that sound clip out of here.
Yeah,
Just
we're gonna
don't let
cut
her
that
make it
down.
back. Yeah.
Sadly, we're live, so I can't do
I'm just kidding.
that.
Bengals. But they
Bengals.
never talked down to me if we wanted to talk about the sport and never made me feel like, oh, that's cute. It's just trying to
Right.
talk about
Right, right.
it's football. Like what's so precious about it that it's not accessible to everybody? It's
It's
it's a
awesome.
wonderful sport. And
Mhm,
if you love it, good for you,
mhm.
so yeah, Tigers Talk, we're on Twitter at Tigers Talk Pod. You do have to probably follow us there because we don't have a set day of the week that we broadcast live.
Right.
But we have a wonderful base that asks questions. We want to hear questions like we want to hear conspiracy theories. We have great conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theories. I love that part of Tiger's Talk and the tinfoil hats. I think I might have to do a cameo of Tiger's Talk and have the
Yeah,
tinfoil hat. I think that's it. I think I have to have my tinfoil hat on next show.
do it.
I'll do it with Kay. How about that? I'll make a tinfoil hat when I have Kay on next week. I can't wait.
There you
There you go.
go.
Perfect. Well, Whitney,
Yeah.
it has been so incredible to have you on. I thoroughly enjoy anytime we talk anything and Bengals life, anything like that. So thank you so much for coming on. Please plug away where everybody can find you and what all you're doing now.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome. And I'm at Bengals Whitney on
That's
Twitter,
right there.
spelled
Yep,
just like that. Yeah.
right there.
And you can find us on YouTube, our show Tigress Talk. Just search that, or Tigress Talk Pod on Twitter.
There you go. At Tigress Talk on Twitter, the Tigress Talk podcast really sprouting out and exploding. It's great to see, and it's great to see all this Bengals content coming off of Twitter from
Oh, yeah.
genuinely great people that, like, again, you see in person, and they're the same exact person that you think they would.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, even our bigger celebrities, Bengals Jim, Tony the Tiger, like Yaz, they're great people. Go right up to them, and they'll
Couldn't meet nicer people. We're
could
so
you're really
lucky as
could.
a fan base to have like a really
Mm.
awesome group of super fans for sure.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, Whitney, it has been awesome. I can't wait for this Super Bowl, and I'm so excited. When is the next Tigress Talk podcast?
Not sure the day. Follow us on Twitter and we will let
On
you
Twitter.
know. But we will be on next week to do a show just about the Super Bowl. So
Beautiful. All right. Next week, you're going to find the Tigress Talk podcast. Go in there, engage. They talk to the fans a lot, and it's great to see. So, thank you again so much. And I will see you all next Tuesday. I am going on the Ed Robinson show tonight. It is a sports radio show down in Louisiana. So,
oh,
go check this out. Go check that out. I was on my first Canadian podcast yesterday. So, go check that out at Dine Sports. It was a good time. There was me and Mike Sands on there, and just talking about the Bengals. So please go check out the content. This has been the Back Row Cincinnati Bengals show, all brought to you by fansided.com. You can go over there, check out my blogs. Please read them. I mean, you don't even have to read them. Just click on them. Like, just go search up Back Row and then just click on them. Like, that's it.
do
I'm
it.
just looking to click. Just do it.
Do it.
Anyway, thank you all so much for listening, and I will catch you later tonight. See ya. Hooday.
Hooray.